Assalamualaikum and hi. We're going to present about experiment 2, which is Newton's law of motion. Here is my group members: Asma Izzati binti Mustafa, Fairuz Natasha binti Saudi, and me, Nurul Aisyah binti Azlan, Nurul Shazalina binti Kajali, and Atira Azriza binti Muhammad Azhar. And we are from class A4AS1201B. And our lecturer's name is Madam Mariam binti Muhammad.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Asma Izzati binti Mustafa and I'm from AS1201B and my student number is 2021-111-029. So today I would like to present about conclusion, which is from objective question. So the objective question number 1 is to investigate the relationship between total force act on an object with acceleration of the object. And second objective is to study the Newton's second law of motion.
Hi, my name is Fairuz Natasha binti Saudi. For my part, I will explain about the apparatus and also the procedure. So for the apparatus for this experiment, we use PET simulation. Next, the procedure. For the non-friction surface, first, proceed to force graph step. Next, the parameter setting was set as for the object, small crate, friction, ice which is no friction, and acceleration graph was added by click on the acceleration button. Then, for the first data, the force applied was set to 500 Newton. For step number 4, the play button was pressed to begin, and then the acceleration was recorded and the results were tabulated in table 1. Reset all was clicked for a second reading, and then above steps were repeated at least 3 times for each data, and lastly, step 2 until 7 were repeated for another 9 data. Next, we move to friction surface procedure. First, proceed to force graph tab, and then the parameter setting was set as for the object, small crate, friction, wood, and the acceleration graph was added by click on the acceleration button. And for the next steps, it's actually similar with the procedure for non-friction surface, except for the results, they were tabulated in table 2.2. Here are the rest of the procedure. So with that, that's all for my part. Now I will pass my turn to my friends so that they can elaborate more about this experiment.
My name is Nurul Aisyah binti Azlan and I will explain the result of this experiment. From the result of this table, we can see that we were using a different force starting from 500 Newton to 1400 Newton. Then we used the same mass of crate 100 kg. The value of friction force in this result are same because we applied the same surface in this experiment. For experiment 1, the value of friction force is 0 because we use ice as a surface. Then, the total force will be the same with the applied force. So, for this experiment of non-friction, we will get a difference of total force and the value of acceleration. And for experiment 2, the value of friction force is negative 294 Newton because we will use wood as a surface. Then, the total force of this experiment, we will get 206 Newton because we plus the applied force with the friction force. And for this experiment of friction, we will get a difference of total force and the value of acceleration.
My name is Nur Shazalina binti Kajali. I'm from A4AS1201B. Today in this video, I want to talk about the graph and the analysis data about the Newton's second law of motion experiment. graph that we can get from the result of this experiment. The first graph is for non-friction surface. The acceleration is the function for total force. So the y-axis is acceleration, while for the x-axis is total force. This same goes to the second graph, but the difference is for friction surface. For the analysis data, the first question it asks about what is the relationship about total force and the acceleration. The relationship between total force and acceleration is they are directly proportional. So that's why if you increase the force, the acceleration will increase too because of the same factor. This relationship described by Newton's second law of motion. Second analysis is, does the graph obey Newton's second law? So it's yes, because the graph is acceleration linear to the force, so it makes the acceleration increase when the force is act on mass. This is what that gradient represents in the graph. The gradient is represent the mass. It is shown in the both graph that acceleration is inversely proportional to force. But in Newton's second law, tells us that acceleration is proportional to force. So the formula to calculate the gradient is m equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So the y is the change of acceleration while the x is the change of total force. The last analysis data is they want us to prove that the coefficient of kinetic friction between small crate and wood surface is 0.3. So we will use the friction formula that is friction force equal to kinetic friction times normal force. So from this formula we can prove the kinetic friction is 0.3.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Atira Azriza binti Muhammad Azhar, and today I will talk about discussion. Relationship between force and acceleration is they are directly proportional. So if the force that applied to the object was increased, the acceleration will increase because of the same factor. Force equal to mass times acceleration. This relationship described by Newton's second law. Based on the graph in the data, the graph does obey Newton's second law of motion because the graph is force linear to the acceleration. This is because the acceleration is increasing when the force is act on the mass. The gradient in the graph represents the mass because both of the graph show that acceleration is inversely proportional to force.
Conclusion is number 1, a net force of an object change its motion. The greater total of net force, the greater acceleration will be. And second point of conclusion is Newton's second law of motion pertains to the behavior of object, for which all existing forces are not balanced. The second law states that the acceleration of an object is dependent upon two variables, the net force acting upon the object and the mass of the object.